Tonight on Timcast IRL, Maryland man fatally shot by police, quote, while asleep in his bedroom. Conspiracy or just warrants gone wrong?
Warrants gone wrong.
So we have
What's up, everybody?
Hey,
the lead story we have for you was requested by a lot of people. We started looking into it. We got some articles pulled up. It's about a man named Duncan Lemp who was killed by police. They were serving a warrant, and witnesses say that he was just sleeping, and the cops started firing through the door. I don't know. They're like wearing masks or something. It's like a crazy story.
Yep.
I don't know if there's too much in the way of like legit reporting on what's really going on. We got a couple stories, but this really does fall in line with a couple things. Well, I should say with one real thing. It's these red flag laws,
Right.
where they basically serve a warrant without you knowing, and they're like, "We're coming to take your guns," and then people are like, "No, you're not," and then they get killed. And it's happening a lot because the people who said "my cold dead hands,"
Yep.
they meant it. Yep.
Sure did.
So welcome to the show, everybody. I am Tim Poole. This is Adam.
What's up, everybody?
There we go.
We got
How do you doing?
Lydia behind the scenes. We are working on the camera for everyone. And if you would like to have your comment read in the super chat, just super chat, and we read through them. We try to do our best. Sometimes we got to pass through. We read as many as we can. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button.
And share.
And share. Make sure you tell everyone we are really awesome people.
Please do.
Yeah,
Yes.
say you must come and watch this amazing show.
Especially that soy Jesus guy.
Yeah, soy
Right,
Jesus.
right.
He's a vegan, but you'll like him.
You will like him.
No, that's funny because
He's not a pushy vegan.
right.
He's a nice vegan.
But no, that there were people saying like, I once thought that soy Jesus was a soy boy, but then I realized he's actually a soy Chad, and I was like, all right, there you go,
Soy bro.
Nice.
Yeah.
a soy bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of stories. We'll see what we get to, but we're gonna talk about Atlantis as well because we were talking about this the other day, and I think to get away from the coronavirus and politics, we're like, let's just talk about some weird stuff. Weird stuff's fun, you know.
I like weird stuff.
There was a viral video on YouTube where people were claiming they discovered Atlantis.
I love it.
They were like, this is where it is. And then jerks were like, no, this is not where it is. And so we have the debunk article.
We'll figure it
And
out.
we're gonna
I have something that I want to be true and believe, but
Yeah.
What's that?
I'll talk about it when we're,
Oh, okay.
when we're talking about the subject.
well, so this first story, I read the article, the Duncan Lemp one, and it's a similar story we hear a lot. So I didn't know if there's anything, like, I don't know how to actually like address what's happening. People think it's like some grand conspiracy. Somebody commented in the super chat, this guy was like working on some kind of encrypted program or Bitcoin or something like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything, but it feels like if he was, they would probably want to keep it under wraps, whatever
Maybe.
it was. But I'm sure someone out there knows and just doesn't want to say anything, because if this happened to, the person they know that was working on it.
Yeah.
There have been a handful of
Yeah.
people who have died under mysterious circumstances,
Indeed.
suicide, etc.,
I know
Well-
someone personally.
who have been working on some
Yes.
crazy stuff. Oh, I don't know if you want to bring that up.
Yeah,
you?
that's another subject.
The chat will light up.
It falls in line with this a little bit if this is the case.
and it
Kind of is.
involves a very, very high profile individual.
It really does.
Ooh, what is he talking about? Isn't everybody all excited right now?
I know.
What
Suspense.
could it be?
All right, yeah. So let's just go into this, and
Yeah,
if
let's
it comes
start
out, if it comes along,
All right. Who's
We'll
reading?
see what happens.
it'll happen.
All right, here we go. The Guardian. This is a story from March 14th. Maryland man fatally shot by police while asleep in his bedroom. Montgomery County Police said Duncan Socrates Lemp confronted officers as eyewitnesses gave contrary account. They report a Maryland man who was shot and killed by a police officer was asleep in his bedroom when police opened fire from outside his house, an attorney for the 21-year-old man's family said on Friday. The man's girlfriend was also wounded. The Montgomery County Police Department said in a news release, Duncan Socrates Lemp confronted police and was shot by one of the officers early on Thursday. But Renee Sandler, an attorney for Lemp's relatives, said an eyewitness gave a completely contrary account of the shooting. She said police could have absolutely no justification for shooting Lemp based on what she has heard about the circumstances. The facts, as I understand them from eyewitnesses, are incredibly concerning. The warrant police obtained to search the Potomac home Lemp shared with his parents and 19-year-old brother does not mention any imminent threat to law enforcement or to the public. Lemp's relatives said in a statement released by their lawyers. Nobody in the house that morning had a criminal record, the statement said. Any attempt by the police to shift responsibility onto Duncan or his family, who were sleeping when police fired shots into their home, is not supported by the facts.
Wow.
A police department spokesman did not immediately respond to statements from the family or their lawyer.
Not surprising.
The department's news release said tactical unit members were serving a high-risk search warrant around 4:30 a.m. when one officer fatally shot Lemp. Police detectives recovered 3 rifles and 2 handguns from the home. Lemp was prohibited from possessing firearms, police said. Detectives were following up on a complaint from the public that Lemp, though prohibited, was in possession of firearms, the release said, without elaborating. Sandler said the family believes police fired gunshots, not a flashbang or other projectile, from outside the home, including through Lemp's bedroom window, while he and his girlfriend were sleeping. Nobody in the home heard any warnings or commands before police opened fire. There is no warrant or other justification that would ever allow for that unless there is an imminent threat, which there was not. The police release said facts and circumstances of the encounter were still under investigation. Prosecutors from neighboring Howard County will review the evidence at the conclusion of the investigation. So I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling this will get buried. Definitely.
It feels like it's going to get buried. I mean, it's interesting that they were just, let me scroll up a little bit. It says detectives were following up on a complaint from the public. That's
BS.
it. They're going.
Yeah,
that's the reason they went and got a warrant, because the public was
warrant?
complaining that
Really?
he had
No
guns.
way, dude.
And it's like,
Who was complaining? Who knew a guy with no criminal record was not allowed to have a weapon?
exactly. And then
Just
it's
so,
like,
you know.
wait, why was he prohibited to have weapons?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
It doesn't say that either. It's like, what? And the biggest thing, if they had a confrontation with him, that means they saw him and they would have shot him. How did his girlfriend get wounded? That
Because they
doesn't make
fired into the window without.
that doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
to me. Like, what
Sleep
were
with
they
your
just be
windows
like, pow,
closed.
pow, 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 like just shooting in the general
Jeez, I don't
direction?
know.
Just to, like, no, they're trained to like aim at the
Well,
person.
It was dark. Maybe
Okay,
that was
and
part
he
of
had
it.
they saw he had a gun and said put it down, and he didn't, so they would shoot at him. Why would his girl be there with him if she was sleeping? Would she follow him, stand right behind him during this whole
He was
thing?
definitely in bed.
Well, so we have this story. It's from the American Conservative. This is really interesting because we're starting to see, the left for the longest time has decried police brutality and a lack of accountability.
Yeah.
Now, especially with red flag laws,
Yeah.
conservatives are also saying basically the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then it is interesting, too, when you see there's a lot of sheriffs and police who are saying they refuse to serve like confiscation orders or anything like that. So we'll see how far that, whoever it is who wants to push these laws, we'll see how far they take it.
Yeah.
But this story from the American Conservative says the mystery deepens over the pre-dawn police killing of Duncan Lemp.
Well, that's an interesting thing too. The pre-dawn, 4:30 a.m.
They show up in the middle, wee hours in the morning.
And is it to catch them sleeping? Because they
Yep.
did.
That's what they
They
found.
caught him
They did.
sleeping.
Yep.
And they were wearing masks.
Yep.
So
Dude.
like, and they as that eyewitness said, they didn't announce themselves. They didn't like, we're serving
No,
a
yeah,
warrant.
Nothing.
So
Yeah, they would have woken up.
if you're if you're waking up at 4:30, hearing someone breaking into your house without hearing that they're the police, what do you think it's gonna be? It's a robber or someone coming to shoot you. And
Oh,
it's
this
like,
happens all the time,
Why
though, man.
wouldn't you like grab the your defense?
Yep.
And defend yourself.
Yeah.
Dude, there are tons of stories like that where there's like no-knock raids with plainclothes cops.
That's
And then people are
insane.
like, here's a strange man wearing regular clothes in my house with a gun.
that's crazy.
And
man.
then you end up in prison. Yeah, there's a bunch of stories like
Jeez,
that.
dude.
I don't
so-
understand it.
So we have this story from the 18th from the American Conservative saying, under pressure by media criticism, the police department issued a detailed statement this afternoon, purportedly exonerating itself. That's my
course.
favorite one. We investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong.
Yeah. What are the odds?
But that statement, the third revision of their official account of the fatal raid, is contradicted by multiple eyewitnesses. Police now say that the raid was spurred by an anonymous tip at the beginning of the year, indicating that Lemp was in possession of firearms. A response from the Lemp family delivered by their lawyer, Renee Sandler, noted, using a 3-month-old anonymous tip, the police sought and obtained a no-knock search warrant on March 11, 2020 at 2:38 p.m. The police department states, the warrant was served in the early morning hours consistent with Montgomery County Department of Police practice. So an anonymous tip is all it takes for a SWAT team to launch violent pre-dawn assaults on Montgomery County homes, the press
guess
statement
so.
declared.
3 months old.
Yeah. The officers entering the residence announced themselves as police and that they were serving a search warrant. Why did they obtain a no-knock warrant if they intended to enter the residence and announce themselves? Yeah, because they're full of it.
Yeah.
According to the statement from family members, the raid began when SWAT officers initiated gunfire and flashbangs through Duncan Lemp's bedroom window in the front of the house. According to the police, upon making contact with Lemp, officers identified themselves as police and gave him multiple orders to show his hands. The press release reads almost as if Lemp died from an overwhelming sense of guilt rather than being shot perhaps multiple times by police. It also doesn't specify whether they'd shot or otherwise wounded Lemp before making contact, and issuing commands. According to Lemp's pregnant girlfriend, who
She
was
was
in bed.
pregnant?
What?
Wow.
Oh, no.
How do they leave that out of the story?
Yeah.
Oh, that's F.
And she
Oh
said-
my gosh.
Police never made verbal commands upon either her or Duncan until after Duncan was shot and lay bleeding on the floor.
Wow.
The press release declares, upon entrance by officers into Lemp's bedroom, Lemp was found to be in possession of a rifle and was located directly in front of the interior bedroom entrance door. Was he, quote, found to be in possession as he lay on the floor bleeding? And was it Lemp or the rifle that was directly, quote, in front of the interior bedroom entrance door? The police claim to be vindicated because they found 5 firearms in the house and because they asserted today that Lemp had a criminal history as a juvenile. I thought they said there was no criminal history in the other article from The Guardian. That prohibited him from legally possessing or purchasing firearms in the state of Maryland until the age of 30. Do the police have a right to kill anyone who possesses a firearm in violation of any statute on the books? If so, that's bad news for the tens of thousands of Maryland gun owners who are federal felons because they use marijuana or other illicit drugs. The police department has offered a sham of transparency. They refused to answer any of my questions last Friday. I sent another set of questions to them this morning prior to the latest revision of their story. Among them, many people online have suggested that Lemp was targeted for a raid because he was helping to build a secure computer site for people who shared his pro-gun political beliefs. Is that allegation correct? Did concerns about Lemp's political beliefs or associations factor into the SWAT team's decision to launch a violent raid at 4:30 a.m.? Did the SWAT team or other police department or Montgomery County officials do any assessment of the likelihood that someone would be injured or killed by a nighttime SWAT raid that began with shooting or flashbangs? Did Montgomery County police or other officials make any effort or even consider making an effort to serve the search warrant in any way that would have permitted the peaceful voluntary cooperation of Lemp family members? He goes on to say that he sent these to them. He asked some other questions. So, in the end, he says the Montgomery County Police Department doesn't have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent after it kills county residents. The SWAT team wore body cams, and police have thus far refused to release the footage. They deserve no benefit of the doubt for this violent killing.
Yeah, I want to see that body cam footage.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Bring it out.
I don't care what your politics are.
How are you not showing that? And if the fact that you're not makes me not believe anything you're saying, police.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You wear them for this
This is the
reason.
Right. And then, have you ever seen that video where the cop thinks he's turning his body cam off and he turns it on and then films himself planting drugs?
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
I haven't
seen
seen
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yup.
Oh, man.
But I'm not
Crazy
surprised.
Stuff, man. That's crazy. Yeah, dude, this kind of stuff happens all the time. So, look, people have been saying that this guy was developing some kind of encrypted chat system or something, and all of a sudden the cops came and took him out. The issue I take with that for the most part is that enough to kill? Like, there's companies that have encryption that have resisted national security letters and then been shut down. There are activist websites that do email that have the feds come and seize their servers. Would some dude working on this warrant like an assassination by the state?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
It could be an attempt to like restrain him in some capacity that went wrong.
Okay.
Like they
Like
know
maybe he was warned already or something.
No,
and he was
like-
no, I'm still doing my
no,
job.
like that was them being like, we want to put pressure on him to get him to stop what he's doing.
Uh-huh.
But overzealous SWAT guys were like, let her rip.
Before
I don't know, man.
Man.
You know what the issue is? I interviewed an NYPD detective, and he told me, this was years ago, he said there's nothing more dangerous, and this is a little hyperbolic, than a scared person holding a gun. And you have these police officers who keep saying, I'm scared for my life. I was scared for my life. And he's like, well, if you're scared, go home to your mother, because this job is not for people who are terrified all
Right.
the time.
That's a good point.
And this is an NYPD cop. He told me a story about how he had his gun. He confronted a crazy guy who had his gun drawn, and he refused to draw his weapon. And he was like, because if I draw, I'm escalating that conflict. And now
Yeah.
that guy, we're going to shoot him. And I was like, bro, I'm not going to draw. I'm going to keep my hands up, and I'm going to talk to you. There's no way out of this. You got to put it down. Eventually, the guy put it down, and they took care of things.
Now that's a cop right there.
That's policing, right?
Yeah.
That's a good cop.
policing.
Yep.
Awesome.
Super diplomatic.
And you see that? You ever see that story? I think it was from Brazil. A guy comes in a hospital, he's got a knife, and,
Okay.
and the cop just like sits down and puts his hands up, starts talking to the guy, and this might have been in like Thailand or something.
Okay.
But then eventually he convinces the guy to drop the knife and gives him a hug.
Awesome.
Talk about people who are brave and heroes who actually shut these things down.
Yeah.
Look, I get it, man. I was talking to I can't remember where I saw this, but I was reading a story about some cops and their mentality on when it comes to dangerous situations.
Okay.
And I've talked to some people who have served, like who have done law enforcement stuff. And there's like this idea that some of them say is, I'm not going to risk my life for you. I'm at work. And so there needs to be some kind of cultural honor, within this, within police culture, I guess, where it's not about you going to work and dealing with annoying people. It's about you being a hero who's supposed to defend the community.
That's a good point.
And that means you are held to a higher standard. It means you are at risk.
Yeah.
And it means that yes, you will put yourself on the line, to do the right thing. So I can understand. It's like if you're walking up to a car, because I've also seen these videos, man, where, because they released body cam stuff for this too.
Yeah.
A cop is walking up to a car, and then the guy in the front, and then he walks up and he's like, license and registration, and then the dude reaches down and pulls out a gun and goes pop, 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 pop.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen
And the
those
guy
too.
starts screaming. I've
Yeah,
seen those
it's like-
videos.
That's why
And
they
I'm
shot
sure
that one
every
guy.
single cop has seen those too.
Yep.
So they're like,
dude.
we know it exists. There's people that just simply hate cops. Doesn't matter what kind of cop.
Yep.
Like it could have been the best cop,
Right.
who walked up and would have probably let him off, but it doesn't matter. They had drugs in the car or like something, warrants.
Right.
And they're like, there's nothing that's going to stop me from killing this cop and getting out of here because that's
Yep.
the fight or flight
Yeah.
triggers,
Who was that guy? Was it Alton Sterling? Was that his name?
Yeah, wasn't it the guy
Sounds
who was
familiar.
in his car?
I hope I'm getting the right name.
Let me check.
But there was a guy who
It
was
was.
a legal gun owner.
Okay.
That made
And
me so mad too.
And the cop came up to his car
Yeah.
and said something like, license and insurance or whatever. And then he asked him if he was armed. And the dude was like, I have a permit and a concealed weapon. And the cop was like, don't reach for it. And he's like, I'm not. And he goes, don't reach for it. And he goes, I'm not. Pop, 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 pop.
Wow.
And
That-
the girlfriend was filming it.
That wasn't the guy who was in his car. But yeah, there was a guy who was sitting in his car.
That
And he
wasn't the
went-
guy. I got
he
the name
went
wrong?
To get his ID. Yeah, I forget his name. I think his name was Philip.
Philip Castile.
Yeah.
Philando.
was that him?
Philando Castile. Was that it?
Hmm.
Let's see.
I should
When,
probably
when
remember.
was this? A while ago or recently?
A few years ago.
2016. Yeah, he was
Okay.
pulled
Yeah.
over while driving in Falcon Heights, Minnesota, and killed.
So this is interesting to me, right? I think we're absolutely allowed to have a discussion about, gun control stuff, but this is what we're getting from it.
Yeah.
They pull up to a guy who's a legal, gun owner, Philando Castile. That was his name, right?
Yeah, that was his name.
All right, cool. Who's Alton Sterling was another
He
one
was,
of these.
yeah, he was the
people
riot guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was that Maryland? Was that Baltimore?
I think that was in Baltimore.
All right.
I think.
Check out this story from 2018. And I got to be honest, I just Google searched red flag law,
Yeah.
like killed. And then it's like
dude.
all these stories pop up where the police get a warrant to come to someone's property and take their guns without them knowing, without giving them a reason, without serving them. They just walk up and say, turn them over. Like that. You got to realize, like, the people who own weapons believe in their right to own weapons, and the Constitution straight up says you can.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a discussion about changing that. I got no problem. We'll have a discussion. But if you didn't change it, you can't just show up and then shoot somebody because they refuse to turn it over.
Right.
But
But they're doing it.
Dude, there's tons of stories like this, and it's crazy.
It's pretty insane.
There's one. This might be it. Like, basically, here look at this. A 61-year-old man is dead after he was shot by an officer trying to enforce Maryland's new red flag law in Ferndale Monday morning. And Arundel County Police confirmed the police-involved shooting happened on the 100 block of Linwood Avenue. Yeah, we get it.
At 5 a.m., 5:15 a.m.
Of course. Yep, 517. According to police, 2 officers serving a new extreme risk protective order, a Maryland protective order to remove guns from a household, shot and killed the man listed on that order. Under the law, family, police, mental health professionals can all ask for the protective orders to remove weapons. The man was identified as Gary J. Willis of the same address. Officials said Willis answered the door while holding a handgun. Willis then placed the handgun next to the door. When officers began to serve him the order, Willis became irate and grabbed his gun. One of the officers tried to take the gun from Willis, but instead, Willis fired the gun. The second officer fired a gun, striking Willis. He died at the scene. Yeah, this was someone saying, my cold dead hands, straight up.
Yep.
Cops showed up and they were like, we're taking your gun. He's like, nope. And he went to grab it. They fought for it. And he was like, nope. So, all of these people, these gun grabber type peoples, you realize these people mean it.
Yeah.
There's a constitution that says you can't take it. And there's a serious conundrum.
I don't understand how these red flag laws got passed in the first place.
Because-
it's a direct violation of the Constitution.
Right.
It makes no sense.
Well, the argument is
How?
that the argument is that there are limits on the amendments. Like within free speech, you can be sued for slander, and if you threaten someone's life, you can be charged with threatening someone's life.
Right. Okay.
So their argument is that this is, if somebody has a mental illness, they shouldn't have a weapon,
Mm-hmm.
so someone else can flag them.
Yeah.
Which is
so,
abused.
So what is that? Yeah, exactly.
That's the
It's
problem. It
abused.
gets
It said like the
abused,
family.
yeah.
What it said? Who can do it? The family, the police officers, mental health professionals under the law. Yeah. So it's like a family member just is upset with you
Or like an ex.
or mad at you. Well, I mean,
Yep.
as an ex, would they Would that
Someone who's
count?
lived with you?
Like your
I would think
ex-wife.
So ex-wife.
Sure, okay.
ex-girlfriend.
Separated
Who just simply
spouse.
hates you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like I'm
Wants
just
you
gonna,
out of the house and wants to go and take stuff or something.
Right.
Who
Yeah,
knows?
But you're
Who knows?
armed, and they're like, you know what? I can
get
abuse this
guy
law.
Out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And there are people who are not going to give it up. So this is, this all leads into, what we've been seeing recently. There was a viral thread where somebody went through a list of all of our rights that were just erased due to the pandemic. And it's a lot.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, man. The right to assemble, to worship, for, like, our expression is being threatened. You can't go outside at all. And these are all violations of the First Amendment. The government shall not be able to do this. They just did it, and no one did anything. So this is what worries me, because, look, I think it's fair to say that the coronavirus is a serious threat. It's happening all over the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like all these countries are in on it.
It's a pandemic for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. But then do we just cheer when all of a sudden our constitutional rights don't exist anymore?
I mean, are they written so that it's just an indefinite thing now, or is it because of the pandemic, during the pandemic, until the pandemic ends? Not saying I like any of this.
Dude, they're saying 2 years.
Is that written in there? So it's written into these laws for 2 years. You can't assemble.
No.
You can't protest.
Like Maryland
in groups.
Maryland's law is indefinite.
This red flag stuff.
No. Maryland's quarantine decree. There's no time limit. It straight up says you can't do these things. Period.
That's crazy.
And we'll let you know when we revoke this law.
That's nuts.
Yeah, they're screaming about Hungary because Viktor Orban gets decree power, and I'm like, yeah, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
They just did it here in the U.S. and all these different states.
Total fiat power.
It's the
Look,
same
man,
thing.
I'm annoyed with all the people who go out and don't care and ignore quarantine stuff, because it's like it's not that big a deal, man. You don't have to go fight on the front lines.
Yeah.
You don't got to risk your life. Just stay home. It's going to be boring, and there is within reason how long we can do this.
Yeah.
I don't think what they've been saying is 12 to 18 months, 2 months on, 1 month off, that kind of thing, until we have a vaccine. But I don't like the idea of just blindly trusting the government.
I agree.
For now, I'm looking at all these other countries, and I'm like, okay, I think it's clear to see, like, there's not an international cabal conspiracy
Yeah.
to make this stuff happen. But never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
So, like, Viktor Orban, for instance, in Hungary, just recently enacted or they're proposing a bill that would change their all the laws that say the word gender to gender at birth.
Okay.
So it's like, but that's a political ideological move. And while I understand what they're doing, and to a certain degree I agree with, like, protecting civil rights for biological females, I understand. I do not agree with, like, oh, what's that? We got decree power because we're under a pandemic. Now let's do a bunch of political agenda items that we wanted to get done because no one can stop us.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's messed up. I agree.
Yeah. I just saw Gavin Newsom talking about this. I think it was. He's like, this is the best time to push our progressive mindset into the world. I was like, yeah, we know.
What did Clyburn say to Pelosi? Now is our chance to shape things in our vision.
Into our vision.
Yeah,
These
messed up, man.
dude, these people are evil.
Dude.
Like to just, and this is the problem is people who want to be fair and rational and in good faith and have an honest conversation typically don't want to be in charge.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
these sociopaths who think they're smarter than you want to be in charge, so they run for office.
Yep.
They get elected, and then they start seizing power and doing really stupid things. And you know what? Most people don't pay attention, so it just keeps getting worse.
That's why I want to vote for Tim Pool
No,
2024.
Yeah, man. I'm on it.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.